We're heading into late January with a pattern that strongly favors a strong East Coast snowstorm around February 1st. This is just following a already devastating winter storm that much of the nation is still trying to recover from. This is not about exact snowfall totals yet. This is about pattern recognition, jet structure, and synoptic confidence. Hey there, my name is Eric, student meteorologist, and today it is January 28th, 2026. We're going to be analyzing the upcoming East Coast nor'easter that we are expecting. This is going to be a snow cyclone, bomb cyclone, whatever you want to call it. Either way, it's going to be a rapidly intensifying East Coast cyclone. We're going to see likely, not confirmed yet, but likely rapid cyclone genesis that occurs. And alongside it's going to bring a lot of potentially heavy snow totals in along the East Coast and also just off the coast. Winter is not over yet. It is making that very, very obvious, for a lot of people in the nation, that even with spring starting in March, usually can last all the way into April. So I'm going to dive right into all the data, and I'm going to show you what patterns we're dealing with, what the current data shows us about the potential behind the storm. So firstly, we're going to look at upper air dynamics. We're going to look at height anomalies, and this is what's going to steer the pattern that we're seeing. So going into this event, this is present time. This is actually going to be tomorrow, 6 a.m., January 29th. And then as we go into February, we have a strong western ridge, which is going to help build the negative anomaly here in the east, and that's going to amplify the jet and the height falls and the overall trough. This is a textbook cold side support pattern. The part of this pattern that we're most confident about. Whatever happens, we know that this trough is going to dig in, and this is pretty much just the start of it. This is kind of like the first ingredient, and the stronger this trough, and the further down it digs, and the stronger the upper divergence and the jet stream is around this, is what's going to determine how crazy the weather gets. So this data is what helps us visualize the jet stream and the jet streak associated with this event. This is wind speed at 200 millibar height, which is the upper atmosphere, the upper layers of the atmosphere. As we get into this event, you can see very similar to the last one, we have a dip in the jet stream, and alongside that a jet streak that rounds the base of it, and that's what's going to bring the trough so far south. Jet energy like this favors cyclogenesis once a surface low forms, which would be in association with the upper level divergence. And this right here, I think, is probably the data that most people just like looking at, because it kind of just, even casual weather enthusiasts probably just like saying, oh, well, there's the precipitation, it looks like it's going to build up. And you can see right there, we got that considerable bomb cyclone developing. What specifically denotes something to be a bomb cyclone is a low pressure system that drops 24 millibars within 24 hours, which is expected with this, and it's actually going to, it's going to drop significantly, especially once it meanders off the coast more. And this is essentially going to be a nor'easter, but once it gets closer to New England, it's going to be further offshore, and you're probably going to see most of the snow skipping or kind of just barely clipping New England and Maine. But again, there's going to be some subjective change to this forecast as we get closer. So like I said, something you want to watch. Right now we're looking at the Euro model, and we're looking at MSLP and precipitation type. So initial snowfall in the east is expected to begin in the evening on the 30th, so 2 days from now, up in the Appalachians, and then that's actually going to be caused by lift from the front of that trough. And then once that divergence and once that lift starts really kicking up, going into the 31st of January, a surface low forms, and then we start getting precipitation over the ocean, start getting some convection organized, go throughout the day then, and then this really starts to pick up towards the end of the day. It rapidly intensifies. So you can see there is this dividing line between where there will be precipitable snow and then rain out over the waters. What's causing this is pretty much higher heat retention in the ocean. So during the night, temperatures over the open waters are warmer. And also this is further south and not situated right with the trough where there's cold air aloft. So you're not going to get falling snow in this area. but then within the trough and immediately behind, and within and behind the jet streak and the jet stream, you're going to have that snow. And as convection rapidly intensifies and the low drops going into early on the 1st, you're going to get the buildup of that snow line. And a lot of that, according to the Euro model, is going to linger just off the coast, but it brings pretty good potential for snow totals and on the coast of North Carolina. Now, the GFS, as always with winter weather, is a little bit more dramatic, and you can see it actually situates a lot of that snow further inland, well into the Appalachians and over the Cumberland Plateau, and then even in West Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Even South Carolina is expected to get more with this model. And so normally whenever you're predicting winter weather, and really most weather events, you compare multiple models, and they don't just use one model to determine the likely outcome. They're going to pick an average. The GFS is not most reliable for winter weather. Usually it's better for upper air dynamics when it comes to this case, but they're still going to take the data from that into consideration. This whole system has a continental air mass reinforcing it, so this is not just going to be shallow, quick snowfall. This is looking more considerable the closer we get to it. Right now, the key takeaway is coverage and placement, not really so much totals, but snowfall totals. But we are going to look at the current forecast snowfall totals just to kind of give you an idea, and then we'll keep comparing that over the next few days as we get closer. But basically, in essence of what I'm saying is when both models are wrong in different ways, the overlap is kind of the important thing to look at. Like I said, that averaging out. And in this case, you actually have, similar to the last setup, a cold high pressure system here, which is going to funnel continental air clockwise, and that's going to meet with the counterclockwise motion of the moist air, and that's going to collide. And then you're going to have lift and divergence along this line here where the jet stream is, where it dips, and then that's going to allow for precipitation, and then the cold air is going to keep it cold enough to be snow, and then this is going to dip considerably low temperatures. And for Florida during this event, you're going to see like temperatures in the teens, even single digits, even as far as into the Florida peninsula, potentially temperatures in the teens. But we'll look at the specific temp anomalies and the temperature contours in just a minute. All right, moving on to the part that probably most people are excited to look at, just because people love playing in the snow and looking forward to that, even though there's also probably another half of people that just absolutely hate it and don't want to deal with winter anymore. You don't like the frigid air, and you want to actually feel like you're not dying and you're not just a cold reptilian whenever you step outside the door. So a lot of people just prefer spring to finally show back up again. I feel like that's kind of divided probably 50-50 based on what I see a lot of the time. Whether you're a snow lover or you're a snow hater, this is what this is not the guaranteed outcome, but it is the data that we're looking at right now, and this tends to change a lot. This is the variable that changes the most as we get closer to the spoken event. We're going to slide on from today, the 28th. You can see a little bit of snow, a very small amount of snow moves in as that trough moves through the plains, and then as it dips, and then our given event starts in the afternoon on the 31st. We already start getting snow total. Some areas already see up to 6 to 4 inches around the Appalachians and then southern North Carolina and into Georgia, even in South Carolina. And you go into the 1st of February, start the new month, and then within 6 hours we already get an additional inch to 2 inches in some areas. That's considerable snowfall, not super heavy, but again, this will probably potentially end up being more because this is just one model. This is the last dramatic model, which is the Euro model, but we combine, like I said, the average of many of the models and make our forecasts from that. And then this is all while that nor'easter, that bomb cyclone, the snow cyclone, whatever you want to call it, is rapidly intensifying, and that moves up into even colder air just off the coast, and you can see snow totals up off the coast are expected to be pretty crazy, but that's not going to directly affect land. And like I said, Massachusetts and Maine, Rhode Island, you're going to be clipped, even Connecticut, and you're going to probably see just along the coast up to 7 inches or more. Maine, you're looking at 4 inches, probably 4 to 7 inches, and that's all the way to through the 3rd of February. Now let's look at the more dramatic cousin of the two models, the GFS, and as you can see, we move into the event. Snowfall rate is heavier, and the anticipated snow totals after the fact are expected to be pretty consistently higher and more widespread. The GFS thinks 22 inches right along the North Carolina, Virginia border, 25 inches just off the coast, 17 inches in Massachusetts. There in Boston, you're probably going to see quite a bit of snow, 12 inches in Maine. So again, the GFS tends to be really dramatic with this, but we still consider the data. So I'm thinking, honestly, North Carolina, Appalachians, especially northern North Carolina, you're probably going to see at least 10 inches of snow. I guess that's my forecast. You can quote me on that. Massachusetts, I'm thinking probably up to 15, maybe even potentially at most 20 inches, but that's stretching it, and that's generally for much of New England. But honestly, I'm going to say probably you're sitting somewhere around 15 inches, considering the models all put together. But as I said, this is subject to dramatic change. This is something that we can't really be certain about, probably just till we're on the doorstep of it, because there's just so many variables that come into the production of snowfall. So be easy on us meteorologists. We're trying our best. If you were doing this, you would understand how difficult it is to be certain about it. The idea is to just give you the most likely outcome and update you as we get closer to these events. It's better to be safe than sorry, because snow events like this can be hazardous. I don't think we're going to see as many power outages with this event, unlike Winter Storm Fern that we just experienced, because much of this is going to be situated further north. I think with icing and snow in the more southern regions, yes, you're probably going to see power outages, actually most definitely. But infrastructure in the north, and especially the northeast, is more equipped for this. So this is kind of typical for you every winter. I mean, this is something that if you're living in these areas, you already know this. But overall, why this has the potential to become a strong bomb cyclone: you have a strong baroclinic zone, explosive jet support, a lot of cold air entrenched and forced by that western ridge, all into one spot in the east, and then you also have a lot of Atlantic energy available. This is a pretty textbook setup. It's actually really impressive. It's kind of like getting a little winter hurricane. All the time you have the polar vortex set up in the Arctic. And then when winter really is in full effect, you get a lot of stratospheric disturbances that push that cold air further south, and you get your little nor'easters and our own little polar lows that intrude on the continent. And currently we are still in a weak La Nina, but with winter in full effect and that cold air intrusion really being this strong, it's understandable why a pattern like this is occurring. With La Nina, usually the country is divided and like kind of a zonal line, and you get drier and warmer air in the south, and then wetter and much colder air in a very far northern stretch, very zonal stretch. But again, this La Nina is weak, and while it is pretty stable and mostly consistent now when winter is not so, we'll just call it moody, I guess, so dramatic, that kind of tends to be the pattern. But when that cold air intrusion comes in, it kind of tends to ignore that pattern, and it's like, yep, we're going full force, we're just gassing it right now. We are expected to move into an NSO neutral pattern soon, and they're anticipating that like February into March, so that's going to kind of stabilize things a bit, and we're going to kind of see, we'll probably see colder air go further into the south more often, but as we get into spring, things will warm up, and that might actually limit severe weather potential, like with tornado season. I haven't looked into the official outlooks yet, but just because things will be a bit more neutral. But Usually in spring, that's usually when you start seeing more severe weather, as you get the um, colliding of different air masses, and then you start seeing tornadoes and stuff like that. But we're still another month away from the start of that, essentially. So even a little bit more than that. So that's kind of a little briefing on the expected outcome over the next couple months as we move into tornado season and move into spring. But right now, winter is still it doesn't intend on leaving just yet. Sorry to say that to the people who do not like the frigid air and just want to feel like they're a warm living body when they walk outside the door. I know it makes it really hard to just wake up in the morning and get to work or get to school or whatever it is that you're doing. I know for me, whenever it's cold, it really kind of discourages getting out of bed. So I understand that. Even just last night, I mean, we were down into the 30s again. Looking at residual effects from the last winter storm here, even in the south, we're still sitting relatively cold. I mean, we were frozen in Texas until Monday going into Tuesday, and then it finally, all the ice here started melting, and we saw pretty much the expected accumulation of ice here. But that leads me into the last bit of data that I want to emphasize here, which is the expected temperature from this event and the temperature departures. So as we move into the event, you can see pretty much got that breathing pattern going on with the Arctic air, and then that trough dips, and then we go down as far as freezing in southeast Texas and especially sub-freezing in central and northern Texas. And then you get kind of into the below zero temps in the Midwest in some spots. The West stays relatively warm. Of course, sunny California is staying the usual sunny California that it is. But, the big spectacle here is the East Coast. And we're going to get, like I said, down into the single digits in the Appalachians and the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. And then Florida, like I said, is going to see sub-freezing with this. And actually, it looks like Florida is staying probably a little bit warmer than initially expected from what we've been seeing past day. But Florida, I would still keep an eye out on damaging hazardous sub-freezing temperatures with this. Places, through the 1st to the 2nd of February, the Appalachians, you're looking pretty cold. Like actual absolute temperature, you're looking 4 below zero, and some spots like near Boone up and even around Asheville, some of the highest elevation spots in the Black Mountains. I mean, you're probably gonna be seeing near zero temps. So Canadian climate there in the highest elevation spots. I'm sure Mount Mitchell's probably gonna be seeing a lot of snow. It's going to be cold, probably going to close down travel in the area. And a lot of this is interior. I mean, this is it's off the coast. That moisture along the coast is still going to keep some of the East Coast relatively warm as this air mass clips everything, but you're still going to be expecting a lot of snow generally along this area and just clipping the coast, especially as it goes further north. Because as you go further north, even that warmer, moist air gets cooler. So depending on exact timing of when moisture collides with this trough and how far down this trough goes, Florida has the potential actually even to see some icing and accumulation because of how low the temperature is going to get. And then according to what this model is showing, this is subject to considerable shift. I mean, you can see how close that snow line gets to Florida, and some of it even is in Florida and southern Georgia. I'm thinking that Florida is at least probably going to see some icing from this. I mean, you're even seeing some sleet there in even in the Gulf. So with the variability in this, I think it's most important for Florida to keep an eye on this because that icing can be dangerous, and I think the deep south is probably not as shouldn't be as concerned about this right now because most of the precipitation is going to lie east, which is where most of that continental air is going to protrude. But you're still going to be seeing sub-freezing temperatures, but you'll probably be abdicated a lot of that precipitation. But again, things can change, so we're just going to keep an eye on this as time goes on. So the final take on this is this is a storm worth watching for much of you on the East Coast and in the Southeast. Confidence is rising on a rapidly intensifying nor'easter storm, but we'll refine the expected impacts as we get closer to the event. And that is pretty much all the data that I have for today. I hope that you find this useful in making your preparations. If you want updates as the storm sharpens, make sure you're subscribed. Please leave a like on the video if you found it helpful. That helps me out a lot, and it also helps you because you can get suggestions on these helpful weather analysis videos. Remember to take care, stay safe out there, and remember, you are the storm. I'll see you in the next one.